Hello, everybody. This is Old Nan. We're hoping for Lady Ashley to show up later, and Lady Steffi is with me tonight. We're going to be reviewing Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 5, The Bell. And my way of thinking, it should have just been the name of it should have been The Dragon Awakens. But anyway, Steffi, introduce, and I'll let you do the guide us through the episode tonight.
You're gonna let me guide? I've been trying to. But hi chat or everybody. It's Steffi. So yeah, I guess we're gonna do episode 8, The Bell, or season 8, episode 5, The Bell. And yeah, educational entertainment purposes only. Yeah. Okay, so first scene is Varis. Um what did you think? We'll start with you.
Go back to the the preseason. They always show what's pertinent in the previews, and some of the things that caught my eye was Arya not coming back with a hound to Winterfell. That yeah, it was last week, but yeah, I didn't really like that. Cersei's they want to take the crown lands, the capital, without destroying the people. That we got that from them. And then Jamie leaves Brienne for Cersei, and that they die together, And Cersei's a hateful, and so Varys, he goes, when you started off with that scene with Varys, he had already rolled up a bunch of messages already there. The little girl comes in, and then she leaves. Well, the next time you see Varys up there after he's talked to Jon, those scrolls that were on that table are gone. So whether they got dispatched to the realm or others, or whether somebody came in and got them or something, I'm pretty sure that at least he got some of the scrolls out. What do you think?
It was okay. So I'll answer your question first. So about the scrolls, I don't think they were released to Westeros. I think Tyrion and Dany and everybody else already intercepted them, right? Because they have to be sent off through a maester, unless one of his little birds has like a ravenry like access to it that they can just send it out by themselves. Like I don't really see how that's getting out like that. But he was writing notes. It starts off with Dany not eating, so I thought that is kind of similar to Ares. So the way they did Dany this episode, like the chat can hate it, but it was very well done. Um, I enjoyed it for Dany. I thought it was very Dany centric episode where it was her conclusion basically. So yeah, so I got an Aries tie in there. I find it weird that Varys still has little birds because he's been gone from the kingdom for so long. But I guess like kind of like Hybern, like you just pay off a new batch of like ignorant children to do your dirty work again. I find it weird that Varys said the greater the risk, the greater the reward. What reward would he get out of this though? Like it doesn't make sense from his perspective. Like, okay, let's say if Jon is king, right? And this risk is worth it. I don't think Jon would be a good king, right? It, there's so many points in the book in the show, right? Like he basically right, like in the first couple seasons he went beyond the wall, right? And then he abandoned the Night's Watch, right? He was screwing Ygritte against like his better judgment. He regrets it too in the books as well, like his inner monologue. So I just don't see the payoff with Jon being king, right? Like he let in free folk from beyond the wall. Like in a normal world, that would be a suicidal thing to do, right? To let in like basically foreigners into your country, like it doesn't make sense, right? especially ones that have been like previously very violent to you. So I just don't get the thing with like the greater the risk, the greater the reward. I got Aemon and Targaryen here. A Targaryen alone is a terrible thing, right? That's the vibe I'm getting right now. And I still feel Jon is alone. Like he doesn't, like, despite having his family, he doesn't have his family. So I don't think, again, it's not a greater reward to pick Jon. Yeah, go.
Oh, you do? Okay.
No, I'm not.
Well,
I'm not done yet. But yeah, you can.
Okay.
No, you can add input if you want. Yeah.
Okay. I just, before I forget my thoughts, I was just gonna say that they started on Dany becoming the Mad Queen. I told you that at the first episode this season, that they're going to portray her as the Mad Queen. But you see the depths of the madness, how she went from being a savior to a lot of people to being the conqueror, and I don't know what she's going to be now. I mean, I don't know. We'll talk about it later, but you could see the depths of magic. And I do believe that Ashley's going to be jumping in here in a minute.
Awesome.
Good. One of the background ones was Viserys in the background saying, "You don't want to wake the dragon, do you?" And that's exactly what happened. The dragon was awakened in her. And your point about Ares is a great point. Did you see her with that long hair, not eating, isolating herself, antisocial, just her and Grey Worm? Grey Worm he's right in there with her. It's all vengeance and no mercy anymore. There's no grace, like there wasn't any grace in Cersei. It's like Dany has lost her grace. So I'll let you go on from there.
Yeah, my thing with Ares, I posted it on Twitter too, right? The dialogue between Jaime and Brienne, a few seasons prior, where he admits that he saved King's Landing from wildfire. In that scene, he's listing off all the things that Ares did wrong, and basically, that was my like parallel throughout this entire episode, right? So I did find it very Ares-esque, right? Like, we'll get to those scenes, but like I'll point them out as we go. But like she did turn into Ares this season, right? And I kind of sympathize with Dany because it's not necessarily her fault, right? Like, I'm pretty sure if she wasn't going to be attacked, right, from the moment she was a baby, right, and then had to go to Essos and Pentos and like all these places, I'm pretty sure it would have been a different story, right? Like if she grew up in Westeros like Jon did, right, and she was slowly gathering followers, right, like in alliances and stuff like that, like the tables would have been reversed, right? But because she lived the life that she did, she was strewn onto this path, and it's a little sad, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. But the thing of it is, the madness was held at bay for so long in her. It was always a little bit there in Dany. She had impulses that Tyrion was trying to suppress, and Jon suppressed until Jon would not. He told her he loved her, and she would be his queen. But just because he wouldn't have sex with her now, and she doesn't trust him anymore. And I do want to have a shout out to a redneck comedian that does these. He watches Game of Thrones. It's very funny. It's Trey Crowder, and he calls Jon now the Dick of the North. So, that I thought that was pretty funny. But he did try to tell her, But I don't think she would have listened to much. I think she would have thought he would have betrayed her even more if he had slept with her in some ways, because it would have been more profound if he betrays her in the end and sleeps with her knowing the truth. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, so I didn't understand how everyone was coming and going from Dragonstone. Um, I put, how the fuck is it everyone able to get to Dragonstone? No problem. What is there, a ferry now? Right? And I said it was stupid, right? Because the previous episode, you're talking about Rhaegal was shot down from the sky by Euron's fleet. Like, wouldn't he leave one like boat there with a scorpion to like just continuously try to shoot dragons? Like, that's what I would do in my head, right? Like you're talking about Jon, Tyrion, like all these people would be dead, right? If you just left one boat there, basically, to attack this like little boat on the way there. It was just stupid to me. Like it got me. See, it's the little things in this episode that get me mad, right? It's not the big things, right? So yeah, that was a problem I had.
Oh, I thought they were coming up to the mouth of the Blackwater Rush, not to, from Dragonstone, from a ship from Dragonstone. And the Blackwater Rush, the mouth of it, is that not the one that goes straight up, right practically to the capital?
Yeah, it's like
Blackwater Bay.
Yeah, it's like
Sorry.
the Blackwater Rush is here, King's Landing is here, and then Dragonstone's over here. So it's basically like a huge sea that you have to go around, right? So if Euron's fleet is in Blackwater Rush, where like Stannis' fleet was and everything like that, why wouldn't you send like a few to just like circle Dragonstone all the time, right? It was so stupid to me. Like, you're talking about, you're expecting these people to meet up eventually at this place. Why wouldn't you leave a few ships to fucking kill them off, right? Like, in my head, that's how I would think, right? Where they're not thinking like that. It was just whatever. It is what it is.
Well, we thank Ashley for coming in. Well, I think we might want to let her jump in and say her intro.
Yeah, okay. Ashley, hi.
Hi, ladies. How are you? Sorry to be late. I've been listening, though. And I love a fear already on one. The iron underneath. And thanks for being here. And I'm excited to talk about this crazy episode. It'll be fun. I actually thought this was really, really cool. I've been kind of looking at some different things and trying to figure out why it happened this way. And I went back and realized that this has been building up the whole time. And I, of course I have my problems with how people get places and all this kind of stuff, and certain things about how long certain things lasted, and but we've been told this from the very beginning, that this is who she is. So we'll get into that later, but I was actually kind of numb after this episode. I was glad that I didn't have to go online and talk about it at the time, because it just really made me sad. It really made me sad and kind of numb. I was sitting there going, oh my God. But yeah, we'll get into why I liked it and why I didn't. I guess you guys are on the fleet. Is that what?
Yeah, there's
Like the beginning scenes up until Tyrion and Dany, basically, where they have their conversation. So you have like Varis, right? Little Bird, and then Varis and Jon, and then Tyrion and Dany after that.
Varis writing the letters and Little Bird Martha coming in, and okay, yeah. So
yeah.
I zeroed in on the letters. I always do. I always want to see what people are writing, and so I have to get up close to the TV and look at it and see, and fast forward and rewind and do all that till I can see it. I don't know if you, but what the letter says is Daenerys, it looks like it said the name Daenerys, is not the only Targaryen left. Rhaegar and Lyanna blank, their son lives still, hidden by Eddard Stark, his name blank. He is the true heir to the Iron Throne. And then Martha comes in, his little bird, and says she won't eat anything. And I think they're watching me. And of course they're watching her because Varys now lost her mind. I mean, and I see why. I've seen it the whole time. And this is, I think, why I've never liked her, is because it just always felt so wrong to like take sides or even be, a lover of Dany. But that's just me. And I'm not trying to insult anybody. I've strongly felt for a long time that she's not a good human being at all. And that, it's like they said in the beginning, I liked how they did the past lines and past episodes. Right at the very beginning, they ran the lines like Maester Aemon's line, most of all, is so important because he said a Targaryen alone in the world is a terrible thing. And at the time, we thought he wanted to be around Dany so badly so he could be around his family or someone from his blood. And while she was conquering her, just because she was alone, mainly, he wanted to be there to help her or to advise her or something. And I thought, oh, how sweet, kind of thing. But I don't think it was that now, because Aemon's watched so much happen to his family. He's even talked about it, watching, Rhaegar, Rhaegar's children got killed, and while Rhaegar died, and while Aerys died, and while Egg died, and everybody he loved in the Summer Hall fire. And then talking about to Sam, who he was and how many women one woman that he loved else that you when you're about to be king. And that I loved how they played the lines first. It was almost like, because I don't even think truthfully that they know what they've just done. I don't even know if they do, because I listened to them and just went, oh, you guys, once again, I don't think you know what you're doing. I mean, they had this long meeting with George, and like 2 or 3 days long, and it seems like he gave them this stuff, or he gave them a few choices to pick from, and they just don't seem to know what they did. And luckily someone does. It seems like George does. And I know for certain it's not going to end like this in the books. I think we can all tell that by now. But I started to realize the prophecies are out of place. They might be for the wrong people or for different people. And I'll get into that later. But I love that, how they, at the very beginning, showed the lines from past seasons. And I loved how they did the kind of the setup of it all, with Varys writing the letters to make sure that whatever lords are left in the realm get the true information about Jon.
Hold on, I'm going to
Once
jump
they
in there
see
for a
King's
second.
Landing is gone. So.
Okay, so do you think the letters were sent out? You think Varys got them
I
off,
do, yeah.
right?
I think because it looked like he. I do. Yeah, I really do. Because it seemed like he was there for a day or two, or even more, maybe, writing them. And he was writing one after another. And by the time they came for him, it was dark. And he burned the last one. But I do feel like he got them off, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
like
think
ravens were being sent out and nobody even.
Yeah, I don't
he
think
did.
he got.
I really do. I really. You don't? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I would think that someone would see. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nan.
I was just thinking that does it Varys isn't he able to do the ravens as well? I mean, I've always thought he had not just the little birds,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he was able to raven watch as well.
Yeah, that's how I saw it, was that he was sending them off by raven, and that the little birds were helping him. And so he'd just write one or two or however many ravens there were. That I don't know how you got ravens to Dragonstone. I don't know, all the logistics, I guess, like I always say, just more suspension of disbelief than you've ever had in your life. But somehow nobody noticed a bunch of ravens flying off, because nobody's noticing much, really. The characters aren't there. And that's also kind of human, the way that everyone was kind of in a daze, and they'd all just lost most of the people they loved and known, most of the North. Nobody got a chance really to rest or even prepare for this. So I think that's why maybe the ships were in the wrong place, and like idiotic Dan and Dave say, well, Dany just forgot that Euron's fleet was there. And it's like, oh, you guys, please. What are you doing? So I do think he got them off personally. I hope he got the ravens out of there, because I think nobody would have noticed. I just don't.
Okay, so I'll try to justify my point. It's in a later scene, but I guess like it doesn't really matter much, because it kind of relates here too. So when Dany is talking to Jon, she says, "This is what I do to people who spread this truth or rumor," I guess, right? She burns them, and it was more of a message to Sansa. I think she said Sansa, right? If she spreads,
she did.
So
yeah,
to me,
Yes,
I think Dany knew.
She knew that Jon would tell. I think she was testing Jon to see if he would tell, and when he did, she knew he would tell. When he wouldn't reciprocate her sexually, I think that he would. Yeah, and I think that she was just doing a test of all of them. And I very much fear for Sansa and all of them. She could take that dragon up there and just destroy Winterfell all over again if she wanted to. But, yeah, I got the feeling that, Jon is slowly getting his eyes opened. And I do believe after this episode, he's gotten his eyes open quite a lot. Especially when he hears Arya's tale.
So,
definitely.
So that was my point. Like she was basically playing that Tyrion game, right? Where Tyrion does with Marcella to see who tells the truth or not. I feel like that was it. That was your test to see who's loyal and who isn't, right? So basically, a few people came back, and then obviously Varys was the odd one out, who tried to rat it out to everybody, but I don't think he was successful. But like, I can understand people ignoring it. You're talking about like the whole one of the like a huge part of the army has to be there protecting her. Like, what are these ravens doing, sending out? Like, who do we have to talk to, right? But I guess, yeah.
Jon would bring ravens. Wherever he goes, Jon will have ravens, I think, to communicate. And but I don't know that Jon was even there when all of this with Varys was going on. And he didn't come in until it was time to execute him, And at that point, really, Dany had not done anything wrong. Yeah, at that point, Dany really hadn't done anything other than killing Tarleys, in Westeros that was all that bad. But now, like I said, she's Mad Queen all the way, and I couldn't understand, the Golden Company, they just went quick. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead, Steffi. Yeah, go ahead.
You can see me like bubbling, eh? I'm not obvious. Sorry. what did I write here? I said
We've been doing
Varys
this
is
a while.
Varys is fickle. That's what I wrote. You see this more in the books, with Fagon, right? Like first he tried to, like, I feel like first he tried to get Viserys on the throne. Then he, like, it almost like he tried to get Renly on the throne. And then he's trying to get Fagon on the throne. Then he tried to get Dany on the throne, right? And now he's trying to get, like, fucking pick a fucking piece and just try to move it. Just try to move it. Like, just one. You get one chance. Like, oh, like it was just bad character development, right? Like it was so stupid. Like, pick your team, buddy, right? Like, it's just so bad.
Well, they had him as a champion of the people, the small folk. And in that respect, he was. And he's always been so brilliant, so smart, and sneaky about everything he does. He just up and tells Tyrion everything. What was that all about? It was like the prophecy that Melisandre said in his head, it was like he was self-fulfilling it himself. Because, there was nothing typical about the spider's ways. It was open. It was out there. It was in your face. I'm betraying you. That's what I got of.
I think that's what I'm kind of saying, is that I think that what George has said all these years about prophecy finally came to the forefront. Like, the old will, like in Tolkien, evil will always take care of itself. Good can't fight evil and vanquish it forever. Evil will eat itself away, but good can't really conquer evil. That's why George doesn't do the gray, or does the gray and doesn't do the black and white only. And Tolkien only did the black and white sort of Christian thing, but he never really explained why, so as much as George does, the why of it all. And so what I kind of did is looked at Tolkien to see why this would have all happened. It all sort of fell into place for me. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, is that I think, it is coming into a new era. But a tyrant like this is never going to fly, and there's a lot of lords still left alive. There's the whole Reach and Dorne, and whatever we have of Dorne in the show, but there is Dorne, and we have Gendry in the Stormlands, which I doubt he's going to follow anyone Arya doesn't want to follow, or anybody that he's, I know that Daenerys made him a lord, but doesn't mean he won't think it's wrong what she did. And there's still plenty of lords, like, Sam's now got Highgarden, Hornhill. I don't think Bronn will really get Highgarden. I think that'll be, I don't know how this is going to play out. It's just that Tyrion says I think it was Tyrion that said, we both know what no, it was Varys to Jon, said, we know what she's about to do. We both know what she's about to do. And when he was trying to kind of talk Jon into, which was really, that's how the Master of Whisperers, it's like, the Master of Whisperers always existed in the medieval times, always behind the scenes though, and never would put himself out there like that. Like, meeting Jon on the beach was the stupidest thing he could have ever done. And I don't know why he did that way, unless he really was just gonna, kind of like Bloodraven, sacrifice himself for the realm so that he could become, Bloodraven became the all-seeing Greenseer, but Varys just kind of sacrificed his life. And that's why I think he got the letters out, is because something has to come from this, where he tried for all these years. Like, he told the Mad King, don't open the gates for Tywin, and he still did, and the city fell to Robert. So it just seems like it's the old going out, but in the old style also, so that it's kind of not as well done as it should have been by them, because they're used to having all the power and they don't know what it's like to have little spies watching you, as if, Varys always had all the spies, but now he's being spied on. And I don't know if, how I would expect Tyrion to be there watching him, and I would think he would know that too. And I just wonder if he actually thought that because he saved Tyrion's life so many times and been there for Tyrion so many times, that Tyrion wouldn't tell Daenerys that it was him that gave it away.
Okay, there's a few points I want to jump in on there. Varys does say to Jon, power resides where men believe it resides. Right? He did say that, so that's definitely a point for you, for your like explanation there, right? Like it's up to the realm at this point, like who they want to follow, right? But like we'll get to that scene. I don't want to spoil it too much, but like what was the Maester Crescent? That's another thing, right? I kind of feel like this is a Maester Crescent moment. To me, I'm disagreeing with you guys here. I think Varys was on a suicide mission. I think he took the poison completely and just died from it.
I agree. I think that was my point. I didn't do a good job of putting it out there, but he did it out in the open so much. I think that he was showing Jon just what she's capable and using himself as an example. But I agree with you on that one. Yes, Steffie.
Okay, I guess we could. Is everyone done with the first Varys scene and Varys meeting on the beach with Jon?
Yeah, I think so. I'll just say that I agree with you there, because I do think that Varys might have just I agree with Nan that he might have just sacrificed himself so that mainly Jon could see what she would do to anyone.
Oh, that's
even Jon.
interesting. Yeah, I like that. So you think it was just to prove to Jon what was going on? Oh, that's smart. Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what he was
for
doing.
The realm.
That's why it was so out open. I think he really wanted to be. He intended to be caught, and I think it was specifically for Jon to see what she's capable of. And by the way, now Tyrion is the Whisperer, and he is basically taking up the job that Varys had, being the Whisperer now, and that Varys said, "You'll see." He went along with everything that the Mad King did, Varys did. Now Tyrion is in Varys's place where he was. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's not such an easy place to be in. I mean, even Varys couldn't get the Mad King to do what he wanted him to do. He just opened the gates for Tywin, and that was the end of him. It was the end of a whole dynasty. So, it's kind of like there's a Master of Whispers that I'm trying to think of from history that kind of did the same thing. He sort of gave himself away so that the queen could live, and she ended up dying anyway. But I'm trying to think of his name. I might think of it in a minute. But yeah, I agree there. I got that question today on Quora and thought, oh yes, I think that's true. Because he was also trying to poison Dany. I don't know if you guys got there, but he was trying to poison her, I think, with the little bird. She won't eat again. Well, we'll try again at supper, he said. So I think he was trying to poison her. Yeah.
Yeah, there was definitely like a lot of tie-ins to Ares. Cynthia and I brought it up earlier, where like she's disheveled, right? It's almost like the long nails, the long hair, right? Like everything, like the throne chair is hard to sit in and everything like that. But like Varys was there too, and he was kind of causing that. In my perspective, Varys is a little bit of a reason why Aerys went mad, right? Like like if Eris just would have trusted his gut all along, right, and wasn't influenced by these people, then he would have been fine, right? Like that's how I kind of take it. It's like it's too many voices bickering where you kind of have to just look in the mirror and look at yourself, right?
I agree. I agree with you.
I like that because I actually think that, we always hear these stories about Ares being kind of a good man before he ended up taking the throne, and it might have just been that the throne didn't want him and he wasn't right. It kept poking him and cutting him, and he was the king of scabs, they called him. But the thing about it is that he was trapped in Duskendale for a year almost, as Tywin left him in there. And this is kind of why I think this is important with Daenerys, that she was kind of felt isolated and it drove her over the edge, is that this is why Maester Aemon was saying a Targaryen alone is a terrible thing. Because once a Targaryen is alone, I don't think anybody at Duskendale, they always say they didn't do anything to him, really. They didn't hurt him. They just danced around him and poked at him and made fun of him and laughed at him, the Darklands at Duskendale. So I kind of think that just him being alone and unguarded and untrusting and scared for a year just made him lose it. So Dany sort of like the braids came out of her hair, the whole thing, where she really started looking a little gray and like the Mad King herself, with red eyes from crying and not eating and not sleeping and all that, where she was just, somebody betrayed me. It's like that's all she can think about is who's betraying me, who's behind me, it's the same way the Mad King was acting, where he wouldn't even let anybody cut his nails or brush his hair or anything. So that's kind of what it made me think of.
Yeah, there in the books and in the show, you have a lot of the House of the Undying in this episode. So
oh yeah, like crazy, and I love that.
Good call, Steffi. Good call.
Okay, so let's move on to Tyrion and Dany. That scene where he basically rats out Varis. Let's do that one.
I'll take that one out first. That one I had my eye on. The first person she thought of was Jon Snow. Did you notice that? When she knew somebody betrayed her, but she for sure thought it would be Jon Snow. And then she turns it around and makes it Jon Snow still in the end, because he told his sister. Well, Jon never said he wasn't going to tell him. He never promised. She asked him to, but he never said he wouldn't. And I think it was pretty bad of her to not do that. Well, we know that Samuel Tarly, he's on Jon's side. If one of them little birds ever makes it to Samwell, then, you've got another war on your hands practically, if it plays out that way. In the previews, we won't go there. But, yeah, it looked to me like it's, it was bad to my way of thinking. It was very prophetic, I think, in that, yeah, there's some northern people and a lot of the people that are in more danger now because of it.
Definitely. The whole realm's in trouble. So yeah, I also thought all I could think of was the House of the Undying stuff. It was so cool. Just how I was like, oh yes, finally they're coming around. And this is why I say I don't think they even know what they're doing, because, and that's kind of, I don't know if it was George who gave this to them, because it according to them, he gave them a few different ideas of what they could do, and he left it up to them to decide. So it was kind of like, he gave them the worst possible possibility, or maybe this wasn't even the worst possibility, but I don't see what else could be much worse than this. And so I think they went with the most extreme, because they have been really, if if we go back and look at the House of the Undying, and if we go back and look at every city that she's conquered, everything that she's done, she is, and look at the prophecy. I was going to read the prophecy of the stallion who mounts the world, because she has become that completely. But she has been that the entire time. She's been threatening to burn cities to the dust over and over and over again. She named Vace Teloro, and that means city of bones. You know, it's just like Ares saying, burn them all. I want to leave Robert a kingdom of ashes and charred meat, you know? So I think that was a lot of what this was that it is in her blood. And when and that was the other line. When the gods flip a coin, whenever a Targaryen's born, the gods flip a coin. And the whole quote is really kind of great. It's, I think it comes from Barristan to Dany, and it's about how she, sorry, I'm looking for it. How
when the gods, quote, every time a Targaryen is born, the world holds their breath, and the gods, everybody holds their breath. Flip a coin, and the world holds their breath.
Yeah, and Varis said, I don't know how hers is going to land. And Jon, you know, Jon's also part Targaryen, so, but then he said, you know, it is like, he said, but I know how yours has landed. And you can tell that with Jon. He's, like he said, he's measured, the people like him, he's charismatic, they're drawn to him. And so the whole thing about it was kind of how much can these people really take before they break? And Jon just doesn't break, but Dany definitely broke.
Okay, I'll jump in. Oh, there was a point that you made. Oh shit. I'll get. I know I have it in my notes, but I had the same exact thoughts too. Dany's like Ares disheveled, yeah. I like the scenic shot of Tyrion going in. I thought that was very nice. He went into the mouth of the dragon, right? In that scenic shot when he's walking up to Dany. I loved that scene. It was just, and he's staying in the mouth for a while too.
With the statues on the side, and then going up to her. Yeah, that was very good. Very emblematic.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like Tyrion is in that moment, like when you see that shot, it does feel like almost like Tyrion's trying to save his own skin, and it kind of goes back to the previous episode where Sansa says like you're scared of her, right? Like you don't know what's gonna happen to you, and she does threaten him in this episode. I think it's in this scene too.
Yeah.
I agree.
Next scene. But yeah, like it just didn't, like he's like, oh, it was Varis, right? And I understand Tyrion's logic with him and Varis knowing the truth about Dany, because they're supposed to stop that, but they're not stopping it, right? Like even Tyrion's not stopping it technically, right? He that's why I have a feeling this is a Maester Crescent like thing. Like Varys took the poison without thinking of the long term, right? He thought, oh, she'll just die, right? Like whatever, right? He wasn't really thinking properly, right? I guess that's a resounding like problem that I have, that there's not much logic, right? Like to the show, like it's kind of like the fairy, right? And you're not being near Dragonstone. It's just stupid. I did like Dany saying, she trusted you. She trusted you to spread secrets that could destroy your own queen. So I want to give a lot of props to Sansa this episode, but I do feel there's other reasons for what Dany did, right? Like I feel like this was there was a progression to her getting to this point. But like, it's true. Sansa manipulated Tyrion in this moment, and he didn't even acknowledge it, right? She's like, I thought you were clever, and you're an idiot, right?
She little fingered him. Oh, that sounded terrible.
Yeah, she did learn.
I also thought this scene was like a little harking back to Jorah when Jorah betrayed Dany. Jorah was exiled for basically the same reason, for telling Dany's secrets to people that could harm her, right? And Tyrion gets away scot-free. Mm-hmm. Same with Jon. Why Varys? Why would you pick on Varys? And I feel like Dany's one of those. It's kind of the same thing with Sansa. You trusted the queen, you're an idiot, right? Like Sansa telling Dany that. Like, why would you trust Varys? Right? Like, this person is the one with Illyrio who sold you off to Khal Drogo, right? For her brother's aid. Why would you trust Varys? You're idiot. Sorry, but like, get your shit together already, right? Like, aren't you supposed to be smart by now? You've taken like the entirety of Slaver's Bay, Dothraki. Like, learn your shit already. Like, you're not supposed to trust people. No, stupid. And that's all I hold on. Yeah, that's all I had with this scene. But I did like that scenic shot. I felt that he was scared. He was trying to save his own hide. Like, it wasn't him doing it, right? Like, he wasn't trying to be truthful to Dany at all.
I agree with that. I got that same impression, Steffie. He was scared. He looked like he was scared. And in the end, he told Varys that it was him. And I think that Varys kind of understood that he was scared for himself. But that's just the way I saw it.
I saw it a little bit the same way. I saw that, I feel like this is kind of like trying to get the old out and the new in, and the whole idea of the breaking of the wheel. Even though Daenerys is not breaking any wheels here, she's doing kind of the same thing that on a huger scale that Maegor the Cruel did, and that a lot of people in her family have done. But like when he burned the face of the Seven when he wanted to get married to another woman, and they were standing there, and he burned them all on his way up to Aegon's High Hill. But what I found interesting about it is that I feel like Tyrion's just trapped now. Like, I don't think he realized what he was getting himself into, how crazy she really is, and how this has been building and building and building with her. Like, if you look at Daenerys's life, she was on the run, but she was a little girl. And so all she had to look at is what Viserys had to tell her. So Viserys would tell her stories about her life, like, well, we were always running from the usurper's knives, and we had to sell our crown, and we had to sell everything off, and we were always being chased and going from place to place. But for Dany, she was young, so she was with Sir Willem Darry, who was really kind. She was with Illyrio, who's got probably one of the biggest manses in both Essos and Westeros, and gowns and presents of dragon eggs, and very well taken care of. So she was kind of pampered and always called the princess. So she was always very entitled, and she always, more importantly, she always had someone who loved her. First it was Willem Darry, Viserys was always there, Illyrio then next, then Khal Drogo, even though he scared her at first. I don't know that, because she had Viserys there, she still thought, well, there's a way I can get out of this if I don't like it. And then she doesn't even practically react when her own brother dies. And that's a little bizarre to me, like that whole look on her face where she just went, he's not a dragon. When Viserys got the golden crown from Khal Drogo, it was like, whoa, that's your brother, even though he's a piece of shit, excuse my language, but he was, but she still had Viserys to love her and tell her how important she was and that she was a dragon, and and that she was loved. And then she had Jorah, and Jorah even tried to kill her, but then he loved her and he called her a queen and a princess and told her that she was loved, called her Khaleesi, called her his queen. Then she had Dario, called her a queen, told her she was a dragon, told her she was so powerful, constantly had all these people who would tell her these things. And then now she ends up in Westeros, her dream of where she thinks is her home, and nobody loves her at all, and she's alone. And like I said last stream, Varys was the only one who actually stood up when she left the room, which everyone is supposed to do if you're their queen, but no one even flinched. No one even noticed her getting up, but Varys. So I feel like it was her saying, I'll take out anyone. Doesn't matter who they are. Jon, and Tyrion.
Well,
and I
she
think Tyrion's
said
just running scared.
she just told you in her scene with Jon there, when he said, when she rebuffed him, she said, well, let it be fear. All that she gets it has known here is fear. She's seen the look that they give Jon, and she's had it on her and Essos as a savior there, and someone good. But here, all she's known since she's been here is fear, and she's lost everything. And when she said, let it be fear, it was very reminiscent of Cersei and her I choose violence. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the first things I put down, and I'm sure everybody else has picked that up too. So it's out there already, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But yeah, that would remind me of that.
It did me too. It also felt like, Cersei said that when she lost everything too. She lost everyone but these strange people, Qyburn in the mountain, She didn't even have Jaime. Well, she did, but I think she was kind of doubting how he felt, and then he left. So, it's kind of the same thing where these women are okay when they're loved, and when there's adulation for them and being called mother, Misa, all this, and then when Missandei dies and Jon won't return your love, you flip out. I think that's what Aemon meant when he said a Targaryen alone is a terrible thing. We don't know. Maybe Egg felt alone when he did this at Summerhall. I think the people were turning on him because he wanted to be more fair, or the lords were turning on him, because he wanted to be more fair to the people. And so I think it might be the same sort of thing. Go ahead, Steffi.
Did you see me? Okay, so that was the point that I wanted to make earlier, to your point, was Aegon the unlikely. Why would Varys choose Jon, right? Especially after and then you have the Jenny's song, entertainment purposes, please. Yeah, but that was the point I made. Why would you choose him? It doesn't make sense to me, right? What has Jon done? Again, where have you been? Pick a player already. So fickle and indecisive. He's one of those women that's oh, maybe I want to have sex with you, maybe I don't. Make up your mind. Right? That's how I feel. It's one of those sluts that takes you along,
yeah.
Right? You're friend zoned, but you don't know it.
Yeah, the tables turned on her.
Or maybe it's just
that section. Good parallel there. But Egg, he's the one that came closest to breaking the wheel, and he died for it. And that's why he died, because he was actually trying to do good for the small folk. What she wants to do, started out to do. And now she's sure made a mess of things. All right, there we going on.
I don't agree with that. I think Varys was in it for. I think Varys is too prideful. He doesn't know the small folk. Like, who the fuck are you? Like, I'm sorry to say this, but like, who are you? Like, you use these little kids to teach them to like basically commit treason and shit like that all the time, right? Like
I
against their
said
queen and kings and everything, and then you go
egg,
behind their back. Like, no, you looking for
not
the realm.
Varys, not Varys, egg, and egg. You know that one. He came closer to try to breaking the wheel than anyone, is what I was saying, and that he actually tried to do what Dany set out to do, is to break the wheel in his own way from the inside. He tried to do it from the inside. Dany has tried to do it from the outside, and she just broke the whole capital.
Yeah, I agree completely, Nan. I feel like, Varys was kind of. I feel like Varys does know the people because Varys grew up on the streets, fending for himself, living in old houses, old abandoned houses. I think that's kind of like the similarity between he and Bloodraven ends there, is like where how Bloodraven grew up was very different than how Varys grew up. But they're both still, everything is for the realm because they both feel for the small folk. And even though the small folk and everybody were afraid of Bloodraven, he still cared about what happened to people and what, who mainly what he cared about was succession of the throne, who would be the best king, or maybe who would birth the prince that was promised. But it became something like, I think for Varys, like, oh God, we can't have this again. This is going backwards because it's the whole cyclical world thing again. We're going right backwards to another Targaryen with dragons. And that goes back to the dragon pit scene at the end of season 7, when they brought the white down, and Daenerys and Jon go off to the side to have their little sweet talk, and he picks up a jawbone as if it's supposed to still be there after all these years. And she tells the story of how the Targaryens put their dragons in the dragon pit and they got weak and they died off, and that was their worst mistake. And I thought, oh God, maybe this is, like, luckily, because I was wondering if George's whole thing about how the dragons are unisex, that, or they can change sexes, that there might be a dragon baby somewhere. But I don't know. I don't think there is. I think it's just going to be her with Drogon. But, she's still, the dragon pit's destroyed. Everything is really kind of, I'm reading your, yeah. So everything's kind of now in a place where is she going to rule from Dragonstone? I guess so. But still, she still has a dragon. And I don't think anybody wants to see that again. I think, even the Targaryens realized that they had to put their dragons away because people were afraid of them and they didn't want to rule from fear all the way.
But there's still dragons in a shy. That's the rumor, anyways.
Yeah.
Right? The running rumor in this series, right? Like, even in the books, they say dragons are in a shy, right? So, like,
yeah.
See, and this is where you kind of miss Quaithe and stuff like that. Like, Quaithe, right? Oh, I must go to a shy, right? Like, you kind of wish she would have just had that thought. But whatever. So we're good. We're good.
I mean, they dropped a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff was dropped this episode. I liked it. I liked this episode. Hold on, I haven't given my rating for this. I probably give it an 8.5 again. I enjoyed this episode a lot. There was a lot of stupid things, like little stupid things that drove me nuts. And I'll get to my worst one, which just absolutely made me bonkers.
Yeah, there were for me too. I feel like I'd give it about an 8.5 too. because I thought it. Whenever something makes me feel that much, something went right. You know. What do you think, Nan?
I'm gonna go with 9. Even it's good. I like this one. I like what was set up. I like all of it. If she's gonna be bad and burn everything down, she did a good job of it. You know what I mean? But the way it was brought out, a lot of people have heard don't like the Arya viewpoint, so much of Arya's viewpoint, but I like that. And I know I'm getting ahead again, Steffi. I'm gonna come back, but yeah, I would give it a 9.
Oh, I just got
Okay.
I just got a shout out to Tyler. Yeah, Sam. Are you happy? I said Sam. He wants Sam to be queen or king. Sam queen. He'd be another like Varis mystery sex. I also like Varys's rings. It's almost like he was married at one point. He had 2 rings. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, we talked about Sam earlier though.
Got out there tonight, ladies. Steffi, Ashley, give them a shout out.
Most of it's just Tyler. He's trolling me. And then we got Rajan Gill, and then Justin popped by to wink at me. I have 2 guys are there for me. Thanks, guys.
The few, but very, very blessed and thankful to have you here.
Oh, and Hacker came by too. I think he was in a previous episode too, or yeah, stream.
Good. The more the merrier.
Okay, so are we done with Tyrion and Dany?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so Varis Burning is the next scene.
Except for the part, are we going to go to the part where Tyrion lets Jaime? Are we going to skip that?
No, we're not even.
We're
still at Varis Burning. We haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of covered like most of these scenes, but like Tyrion. Hold on, where's Tyrion and Jaime? That's like a few scenes after. We're only like basically on like the 6th scene. Okay, I'll go for Varis Burning. I found it weird that he did throw that. You brought this up, Ash. He threw the last letter into the fire. I thought that was a throwback to R'hllor, right? Like it's almost like he wanted R'hllor to know, right? So he threw it in the fire. I like that. Again, this goes to the Jaime and Brienne scene a few seasons back where he's pointing out all the things that Aerys did wrong, right? He burned his advisors alive, right? He just kept killing them one after the other because he was so paranoid, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, and I John's too.
Yeah, just really quickly while you're doing.
Sorry, you can go.
Hey, was what?
You can go, Ash.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to quickly say something about the rings, about Varys's rings. It made me think of Illyrio Mopatis and how he wears all kinds of every gem on his fingers practically, and all of them seem to match the emperors from the Great Empire of the Dawn. Maybe that's hopefully one of the letters he got off by Raven was to Illyrio. I mean, my computer's going so slow. It takes me forever to get off mute, so I'll just be quiet.
I definitely feel I still feel that Varys would die before this. Like, it doesn't make sense to me why Varys is dying this late, right? Like, especially with Fagon, right? In the Dorne plot, and like everything is Varys' fault, right? Like, I feel like Dany would have burned him the moment he stepped foot near her. I think she would have just said Dracarys and just like lit him on fire. I don't think Dany has the temperament for Varys, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a little strange how long it lasted. Like, you know, it's almost like Missandei, do you have any last words? Like, what? You've got a dragon right there, you know, and Tyrion's holding on to his arm like, I'm so sorry I told. It's like, well, this was your last ally, dude. What are you going to do now? Now you're totally screwed. No Jaime, no Cersei, even though Cersei wasn't Tyrion's side for a very long time, she might have been after this. But let's see. So we're on Varis Burning. What is it that he said? He said
Well, I'll jump in for a second. I did like this.
Let's see. He
said,
said,
shot. Sorry, I'm slow. Hold on. I'll shut up.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
I did like this scenic shot with Drogon coming forward. I did like that scene, right? Like, this is what I'm talking about. They really bang it out in certain scenes, and then other scenes they just like let it fall flat. Like it's just stupid. Like, yeah. But yeah, I did like that. Like, it was, especially Dany was first, and then Jon was kind of back. It's almost like they were missing the third one, right? Like, where are the three heads of the dragon, technically? Yeah. Where are her three heads, right? There's no three heads yet, right? And to me, like, if we're going to play that Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaella, or Rhaenys, it would be Sansa. Like, it makes sense to me that way. And she's not present. She's screwing over Dany.
Yes, true. That's true.
Yep.
But then again, the third one may be
so many people have thought, oh yeah, could be. I saw so many people asking, where's Bran? Why isn't Bran doing anything? And I just thought, well, you know, we all have to understand what a green seer is. You know, like, a green seer doesn't war a dragon so he can fight. He's complete compassion and empathy and love and omnipresence, and he doesn't get involved in battles. And I also think that Bran learned a great lesson with Hodor and with, you know, everything he went through. And also Bloodraven, at least in the books, told him, I've gone back and I regretted it. Don't go back to the past. The ink is dry. You know, if you change things, you might not even be here. Jon might not be here. Somebody, you know, anybody, everything could change. That, you know, even Ned hearing father when he was going into the Tower of Joy, he stopped for a minute. So you could screw up anything, and Bran learned that. So I liked seeing that Bran wasn't just like, oh, I'm gonna war Drogon and save the world. No, he just let everybody do. That's what a green seer does. He just, everything happens and he watches, even though it's the saddest thing he's ever seen.
Yeah, I'll jump on that thought. It's kind of like going back in time and like killing Hitler. You don't know the repercussions of that. There could be someone much, much worse that can be a byproduct of that event, right? If you kill like Hitler as a baby, or if you kill Mussolini as a baby, and like all these people, right? Like, you don't know what happens, right? Don't do that. Leave it be.
I wouldn't count Bran totally out. I mean, he's probably sitting up there in the north giving a bird's eye view of everything that's happening in King's Landing and telling somebody, you know, he may be telling so-and-so or whatever, but if it's something that is pertinent, relevant, I'm sure he's telling it to Sansa, because they should know to be prepared in case Dany comes after him. She, you know, I still think she could try to go north after all this. You never know. And if what I'm thinking, Bran, if he could warg a dead dragon that's at the bottom of Blackwater Bay or wherever in front of the Dragonstone Bay or somewhere, you know what I'm saying? It could start excuse me, it start the cycle over again, whether accidentally or not. I don't know. I'm just getting a tinfoil hat on for a little bit. Sorry about that.
No, it's always good. I love tinfoil hats. I actually, I feel like, what was I just gonna say? Oh no, it's gone. I feel like that's kind of why Arya was such a big part of this whole thing. It was kind of like the North itself was watching in Arya, and with Bran. We know Bran was watching, but Arya saw it firsthand, and Jon was just trying so hard to hold the soldiers back and try to stop the fighting. And even though there was no way that was going to happen, this is exactly the same thing that happened during Robert's rebellion. And it's also exactly what Robert said would happen. I think I brought this up a couple streams ago when he was in season 1 talking to Cersei, and it was the only time they laughed together in the show, where he said, "What's holding all this together?" And she said, "Our marriage." And they started laughing. And then Robert started talking, and he said, "What's the higher number, 4 or 1?" And she said 4. And he goes, 4, 1. So this was like, it broke everything up when Dany did this. Everybody the Lannisters threw down their swords, and Grey Worm just went right for it, just stabbed one of them, and it was a free-for-all. And this is exactly what happens when some tyrant takes over and war ensues and nobody even knows where to look. There's no leaders anymore. There's just total chaos. And so everybody just started raping and pillaging and running for their lives. If they weren't, they were soldiers. Even Northerners. I think Jon killed a Northerner who was trying to rape a girl. So I felt like that's why Arya was there. Like, her point of view was, now she saw it firsthand, the horror, and can bring that back home.
Yeah, you definitely get the broken man speech in this, right? Where like men just break. But this time, I don't think it was it was for the reasons that the broken man speech said. It was for losing your friends and family and not knowing the ruler that's telling you to go kill, right? Like the Northmen, the Unsullied, like the Dothraki, they all had reasons to kill everybody, right? Especially although they took their aggression out on the wrong people, because Arya basically killed the entire other army, right? With one stab, right? But like they lost a lot, right? Especially the Northmen. Like the Northmen, like why would you even listen to Jon at that point, right? You've lost so much, like in the Vale too, right? You've been like, I could see them going crazy in that moment, right? Like, screw that shit. Like, I'm killing these fucking bastards, right? Like, but I don't understand attacking the small folk, but I understand the tipping of the scale where it just, that line becomes blurred now, right? But like, I guess in a woman's perspective, like, I'm not going to go rape a man, right? Like, it doesn't seem very logical, right? So, like, I guess my mind's kind of closed off to that thing.
It doesn't.
Well, don't look at me, because I'm certainly not. But, I think going back to all of this is you get George in the era that he grew up in, the Vietnam era, and he was he didn't want to go, he didn't believe in war and fighting and all this. Well, this dragon fire was so much like napalm of the Vietnam War. I mean, it gave you a great sense that both the White Walkers and the dragons are just nothing but huge weapons of mass destruction. And that's the purpose of, I guess, what George has been trying to show us in the small folk, in the leaders that you have to choose from in our daily lives, in their lives. You know, there's always hope, but you got to be paying attention to what's going on around you now. Because it's just weapons of mass destruction, and you get one. All it takes is one crazy, you know what, on the throne or somewhere, and next thing you know, you got a whole wide world in war. Okay, sorry.
Don't be sorry. You're good. That was great. Actually, I agreed with a lot of it. I think that it was just kind of that breaking point of, like, Tyrion saying when they ring the bell, they've surrendered, mainly because he wanted to save Jaime and maybe let Jaime get to Cersei, and mostly wanted Jaime to get away on a boat, on a little raft. I don't know how in the world he's supposed to do that, but the winds will carry you. But still, it was at least, I think Tyrion, looking at that castle and looking at all the people that he's gone to brothels and seen in his life and just been in the mix, kind of like more like Rhaegar than anybody else, down in the streets of Flea Bottom, going to whorehouses and whatnot, is kind of Tyrion looking at the city going, oh my God, no, how is this possible that this is happening? And watching the Red Keep fall and knowing that Jaime was probably in there, and Cersei. And no matter how much, Tyrion has done against his own family, I think by this point, after watching Daenerys's insanity of having to kill everyone, it was more than Cersei's done in the show, at least, that he was just kind of, I think he's just stuck, like everybody kind of felt stuck with Joffrey, and then with Cersei. Now Tyrion's left alone, a man alone, with Daenerys, the craziest one of all. And she has been crazy this whole time. I've written a lot of it down, actually. We were just kind of talking about how Daenerys went about all of this, and just kind of going on from where we were. We didn't really move on anywhere. Excuse me. So we're I guess we can move on from Varis and the burning of Varis. It's really the burning of the whole old, kind of establishment, the old monarchy, even though Daenerys is the new, the new old Targaryen dynasty. She's very different than the other Targaryens were. So it's almost like he was the last one left. Last of the small council.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I didn't think of it like that. Wow. I didn't know how you were tying it in there. I was just like, what? And then, yeah, it kind of got blown away. I was like rambling to myself when I was muted for like a while. I was just like, what? Okay. Yeah, Varys is the last one, isn't he? Outside of Tyrion.
Yeah.
Tyrion was on the small council. He's the last one left, right?
Right.
He's not going to last much longer either.
Yeah, he's not going to last.
Dany's going to have him burn.
So
yeah, I think Dany will turn. Yeah.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you guys. I'm such an ass. Hold on.
Go ahead. Keep us online, Steffie.
You're fine, babe.
Keep up with where we're at.
We're gonna do. Well, I was hoping to do Dany, Grey Worm, Jon.
That was a good one. Go ahead.
I'll go first.
Oh, you
okay?
go first.
I find it really stupid that the only thing that Missandei took with her was her fucking slave chain. Like, what are you like? Those horny people that like you know what I'm talking about? BDSM, right? Those people that need the collars. Like, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, why would you need this? I guess like you and Grey Worm are kinky motherfuckers, right? Like that's all I was thinking about. Because like, what are you supposed to do with a eunuch? I don't know. Maybe he gets pleasure from getting hurt. I don't know. But I found that really stupid. Like, you have nothing.
No, I thought it was the opposite.
So stupid. I can't believe.
Actually,
Like,
I thought that, if that was all that she had left, then she was basically in slavery the whole time she was with Daenerys. That she had clothes. What'd she do with them? They weren't hers. They were Daenerys's, I suppose.
They were.
yeah, that was my thoughts too, right? Like, when she's just basically been doing the same thing that she did for those people, right? She didn't even do that. She didn't even translate anything. Like, what if you translate? I fucking hate Missandei. I'm sorry. Such a
I know, and
stupid character.
now I get it. Now I get why. Now I saw it.
Now. We got that point there, girl. Where are we at next?
Actually, I'm not done with that scene. Grey Worm finally picked a name for himself. Torgo Nudoho. I don't know how to pronounce it. Hold on, I'll write it. Maybe.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. I didn't even notice until I saw it on the internet somewhere.
Is it a new one? I thought it was just Grey Worm in High Valyrian.
Oh, maybe it was. I don't know.
But why wouldn't they just write Grey Worm in the subtitles? No, he picked a name. He finally picked a name. That was my only conclusion, because Dany said Grey Worm before, right? I'm pretty sure in High Valyrian.
Yeah, but what does it mean? What is the interpretation of that name? Vengeance.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No idea.
Something like that, probably. That's interesting too, because that means that kind of Missandei keeping that slave necklace or that slave collar was still who she thought she was, even though she was close to Daenerys and she was, I guess, in the show more of a friend than anything else. She wasn't a translator anymore. She wasn't anything but just some girl that's her friend that wears her clothes. I don't know, but it was kind of ended up being like, once Grey Worm lost her, and once he realized what he was really going to do for Dany, he realized that he wasn't a slave anymore, but Missandei was. And that's how I always saw it, is that they were slaves. You see what she does to people who leave her. Go on, Steph. I know we interrupted you.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Like when you're talking, I'm talking to myself. Like, oh yeah, that's fucking right. So sorry, I'm cursing. I just started drinking. There goes that.
Oh, good.
Okay. I liked how Jon came in slouching. I thought that was very. It goes back to when the runt of the litter of Ghost, right? That's what Theon calls him, the runt of the litter, right? So he came in slouching to Dany, right? Like he was scared of her too, right? Or like shameful or guilty, right? It felt like he was little again, like he was a bastard again, and he didn't know how to act, right? Because he was with the Night's Watch for so long, right? Being this big honcho, that he didn't know how to deal with someone else that has power. Cynthia brought this up earlier with Dany saying, "Is that all?" Hold on. Let it be fear. Yeah, Cynthia brought that up earlier. What else did I have here? She killed Varys as much as I did. This is a victory for her. So it's almost like, see again, like Sansa's pulling the strings, right? I found a lot of Peter Baelish in this episode without there being Peter Baelish anymore. All right, like fight every battle in your mind always, right? There's no justice unless you make it, right? I felt Sansa giving off those lessons, right? Like even we'll go into it later with Maegor's Holdfast. I kind of exploded on that one because I found it so reminiscent of Sansa when she was in Maegor's Holdfast. But like every single lesson that Sansa learned, she threw into this episode, despite not being there. Her presence was there, right? It's just written all over it. It was crazy.
Yeah.
That was true. I agree
Yeah,
with that.
which is really cool. I like that because that means that Dany's scared of Sansa, and she should be, because Sansa doesn't look so frightening, and she might not have dragons, but she's got the whole. She's now got all the wildlings. She's got the whole North. Whoever's left, if there's this many Dothraki left and this many Unsullied left, maybe there's a lot of Northerners left too. I mean, we don't even know. I thought the Dothraki had been wiped out, it seemed. But I guess there's a whole other horde now that we didn't even know about. I don't know. I don't know where they came from. But whatever. It's just Sansa really seems to be the worst threat of all to Dany, which I love, And Littlefinger actually was so much more of a little shit starter, and he was much more powerful and got a lot more. He got Harrenhal, then he got the Vale, so he got the most important places that he wanted. He got everything he wanted, really, and he manipulated everyone. Sansa's kind of doing the same thing. And she's doing the same thing Cersei did, so it's almost like a double threat. I don't think Daenerys knows how things run in Kingdom.
I got to take up for Sansa a little bit here, because the girl has been through so much and lived through so much that she has got a lot more sense than Dany does, to be honest. She got her sense of justice, but I don't believe she'll take it out on innocence. It'll be on the person that's causing, the problem, or the guilty, or whatever. Dany, what she did last, Sunday night was a massacre. There's no other way to say it other than she just flattened the city, and it was a million people in that city. How many do you think there's left? A quarter of the population, even? I doubt it. At the rate it wasn't the fire or the yellow or the wildfire that got them. It was the buildings falling down on them. So there's not going to be a lot of people left. And like I told y'all earlier, why would anybody want to follow Dany after that lives there or from there? And that's more of the same. And so why would they even want to follow Jon if you don't know about? If they flip a coin, what's to say that the other rest of the realm doesn't think any better of him than they do her? If he knows that they find out that he is a Targaryen. I mean, could go either way on that. I'll shut up now.
You don't ever need to shut up. I love it when you talk. I want to say that I agree, because I don't, there were children dying. There were men half burned. There were people, that will be scarred and crippled and things like that for the rest of their lives because of this. And she made an allusion to how she was going to kill off a whole, it didn't even seem like this is what she was saying, but it was. She's going to kill off a whole generation so that the next generation can be hers, or be more subservient to her. And that's like, whoa, that's really, really, that's, that's like the worst dictators we know of, who kill off or try to kill off whole races of people and whole groups of people, whole cities of people. So yeah, we were talking about how many people we thought died because of the wildfire that was still there from Ares. And, you know, him saying burn them all at the beginning just solidified it all, that Tyrion didn't find all the caches of wildfire. We knew they were still there. The bells also reminds me of John Connington in the books, in the Battle of the Bells, not being able to find Robert and always feeling really bad about himself because he couldn't find Robert. And that was the battle where it pretty much defined Robert's rebellion, the end of it, and Robert winning it. So it's one of those things where I don't think anyone's going to want to follow her. That's why I think the trailer was nothing but a military state, basically. It was like the army is pretty much all that lives there, except for wounded people, which is just terrible. There's nothing worse.
Yeah, when it came to we had a issue with the Dothraki going out and trying to kill like the others and stuff like that. This was just crazy. Yeah, Jaime and Brienne again, of him retelling the story of Aerys Targaryen. Definitely, you got that scenic view, and you knew like it was history repeating itself. Like you're going nuts right now. But okay, this is like a while away, but like I kind of I do have the shame in my head with Cersei. There was a lot of Cersei with the Sept of Baelor in here. That's how I felt, like the shame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and every time this bell rings, there's certain scenes where it makes sense, where it rings and it's like Jaime there, right? And it rings and there's the Hound there, right? So I feel like there was definitely a lot of people had a lot of shame in this moment, right? And that's what it was. That's how I felt about it. What else? I do have the House of the Undying here. I think I almost wonder if Dany did this because she saw it in the House of the Undying, or because this was the right course of action. Like it's almost like Cersei trying to avoid the prophecy this entire episode with Maggie the Frog in the Valonqar, right? Where she's like, I gotta have this kid. It will break the prophecy. Where Dany just went like dove head first into it and was just like, screw it, I'm gonna make this prophecy come true, right? Like, did she do this? Like, she saw the throne room filled with ash, right? And the ceiling caved in and everything like that. And at first, when you first watch it, you kind of think it's winter and winter's coming in and the others are going to come and destroy King's Landing. But then you rewatch it and it was ash. So it's almost like she knew. It's kind of like the three betrayals where she's like, John betrayed me, right? Where she's thinking all these prophecies in her head that people are giving her and stuff like that. Right, the perfume seneschal, right, and all this stuff, right? Like, oh, this is Varis now, right? That's how I was.
Varis.
Like all these people are shoving prophecies, and it's her mind is just doing what the prophecies are telling her to do. She has no free will.
It's like the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yep.
The way that Cersei was, and I agree with you on that. And she evidently her path. She had to get to Westeros in order to, I suppose, help with the White Walkers. But now, I've been curious since that last episode if R'hllor is still going to be so heavy into Daenerys after everything that happened. You know, R'hllor don't mind burning people. So, was this an you got to look at. I'm looking at things like that, and then I'm thinking about the children of the forest, and I'm thinking about the gods of the seven. They've already had their set destroyed. So, I mean, there's always got to be consequences for actions, especially actions like this. And I'm waiting until next week to see what it is.
Oh yes, and that's one of the biggest themes in these books, and in the story is mercy, forgiveness, honor, and there was nothing honorable about this at all. And this was what Mary Mazdur was trying to kill: the stallion who mounts the world. He will trample cities into dust. He'll burn cities. All of this was it is a fulfilling prophecy, because it seems to me in these books, in this story now, is when anyone tries to avert a prophecy like Circe did, it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, as it did with Circe. So even the bells, and the bells went off, is almost right when she started to burn everything, like just went nuts. And her crying, I don't really know why they had to do that, because that just made it seem like, well, then why are you doing this if you're going to cry about it, And of course, Dave and Dan with their idiocy are sitting there going, well, it's because she's looking at her old family home. She's never seen it before. What does she care? It's not, I don't really think that's why she did it. I think why she did it is because it's in her. It's been in her the whole time. And the harder, she tries to fight against it, the more it's gonna come to the forefront. And she's had Jorah betray her. She's had so many people betray her that now she's almost just looking for usurpers' knives everywhere. Now John's the usurper, because he's now told her secret, which is his secret. It's not hers. It has nothing to do with her. It's his life. It's his stuff. So it's not for her to say whether he should tell anyone or not. But also, yeah, the bells was something that I felt like were something from the Dothraki, where, you hear the bells, and the stallion that mounts the world has the bells, and they all have the bells in their hair. So there's something in the prophecy. I'll find the prophecy where it says, he rides through with his Khalazar behind him and the bells ringing. So when the bells rang, it was like that's when she just went nuts.
I'll jump in there. Okay. Yeah, see that's where my head was going too. When Dany's going mad, her first major mad moment is with Viserys, and she basically tries, or she gets Dora or whatever that sex slave was, right? That taught Dany how to have sex with Khal Drogo, right? She tries to have sex with Varys to learn how to do it for Dany to Khal Drogo, and he comes in and he throws her down, and she basically hits him with this necklace, right? And she's like, you have no right to wear any bells because you've won no battles, right? So that's where my head was going. But I was also thinking about the Red Wedding and Jingle Bells, right? Or Jingles, whatever that guy's name was. And then I was also thinking about Patchface too. I'm almost wondering if Dany meets Patchface, if she'll go a little crazy as well, right? And then I also thought of Shireen as well here too, because she said dragons are going to come to eat her, right? My major piss off though for the entire battle is, where the hell is Gendry? You've just been given Storm's End. Where the fuck are you? Like, where did you go? Like, you're not in the north. You weren't there last episode. Where are you?
He's introducing himself to the people at Storm's End, Steffie.
And that's what I thought too. I was like, well, I guess Gendry's figuring out how to be a lord in the middle of all this. But yeah, Shireen was invoked a few times. The woman that Arya tried to save, her little girl had a little horse, and a little toy horse that someone had carved. I think it was that little girl, one of the little girls. I mean, there were so many little girls that were killed, and it was awful. And Arya tried so hard to save that one mother and daughter, and it was the little girl, I think, was the one who had the horse. So that was really reminiscent of Shireen. And like just a useless death for no reason of a child. And that's, again, something Ned Stark would never, ever have gone for. He would have, that goes against everything the Starks stand for. So Arya trying to help them, I thought was pretty perfect. And Jon trying to get the troops to go back, to hold back, was probably the same thing Ned would have done. I don't think Ned would have let it get this far. He probably would have told someone who Jon was when he saw this was coming. Oh, Nora's daughter was what was the girl's name, or the mother's name? And Nora's daughter was the girl?
Yeah, and Nora was the mother, and then the daughter was just titled Nora's daughter. They didn't give the daughter a name.
Oh.
I guess that it was supposed to be left ambiguous for a reason, right? But again, you have her short hair too, right? It's like that Cersei moment again, where they're trying to show these two people as like everyone almost.
Again,
they were.
I got to stress it. This reminds me of Nymeria, the warrior queen who came to Dorne, and Arya saying she wonders what's west of Dorne. You know, what if Dany lives and things really get bad there, and she takes a group of survivors and they do try to seek refuge somewhere else? I mean, that's a possibility. We all got in our head that Dany's going to die. What if she doesn't die? You know, you've got the whole cycle starting all over again. But it's Nymeria, the way she was helping the children and helping the people in the town, because you got to remember, she was among the small folk of the town for quite a while before her father was beheaded. Even before then, she was chasing cats in the streets. So she knows what it's like to be an innocent in a town, and it was reminded me very much of the whole Nymeria thing, and that her wolf is named Nymeria is not an accident.
No, you're right. I agree. I thought of Nymeria once too, for some reason. I guess that's probably why, is that, she was a princess, which you could say Arya is a little bit. And she saved the rest of the women and children mainly, and the men who weren't dead from the Rhoynar. From Royne, I mean, from Mother Royne, who became the orphans of the Green Blood. And then Nymeria, that's why the Martells are named Nymeros Martell instead of just Martell. So I'm wondering if, Dorne was supposedly, the Prince of Dorne was supposedly following, or had already signed on to follow Daenerys, but I wonder now if they're going to pull out of that. That sounded bad too. Back out of that. Because, it's just, how can you back someone that does this? There's no way. I don't see anyone going, oh, well, yeah, she burned all of King's Landing. Who cares? Because, when you're a monarch, your people, it's like Joffrey, and he wouldn't feed the people. They started throwing things at him and, almost trying to pull Cersei out of the palanquin or what, the carriage that day.
And I'm gonna jump in here for a second because I'm gonna forget my thought. So to your point that people won't follow like an unjust leader or whatever, you're talking about, didn't Aegon burn Harrenhal? So what, like, in contrast, like, it was basically the same thing that like Dany did. It's just a bigger thing that she did. And as for the people rebelling, that's what Tyrion wanted. He wanted the people to go kill Cersei. And that makes sense to the prophecy too. The Pale Hands will kill you, right? You could call your people your little brother, right? If you wanted to go down like that. So Tyrion's plan could have worked if Dany just listened as well, right? Because he's seen it, right? He's seen people go crazy from starvation and everything. And they had that place surrounded after that moment too. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Ash.
Right. No, it's good. That was a good point. It's true, because now after Aegon conquered, though, I feel like that was when they saw this kind of otherworldly, beautiful people of another race, coming in with their dragons and taking everything over. And once again, they didn't really have a choice. I mean, with Harren the Black, or whoever built Harrenhal, was it Harrenhal? He challenged Aegon and said, "You can't burn down my castle," and so he did. But I don't see that. I just don't see, after all of that happening, after them going through all these 300 years of Targaryens who actually realized that their dragons were causing problems to the realm, and then putting them in the dragon pit. I don't see people now going, "Oh, great, yay, another, horrible tyrant with dragons." I just don't see them following that again. That's why I think Jon, when it gets out, somehow it's going to get out, that Jon Snow, what his true parentage is and who he is, and that he does have the better claim to the throne. It's almost how I feel about Aegon and Jon in the books. Even if Aegon is a Blackfire, they always say, red or black, it's still the same blood. So I almost wonder if, like, Jon's kind of both, because he's a Stark too. And this also goes back to what I was saying last time, is that I almost wonder if the Stark-Targaryen union is not a good thing. And this is something, that's why they've avoided it all these years.
See, in
Go ahead,
my estimation, Jon doesn't even have the North. Yeah, he doesn't have the North. It doesn't make sense to me, right? I feel like they're doing that out of loyalty to Sansa and her choices. I don't think they're doing it out of loyalty to Jon at all, right?
No.
I don't know if
No.
I don't think I was there that episode. I think it was the second episode where they were at. No, we were there. I just forgot. Probably I forgot to bring it up, but it was Dany, and they were talking about the order on how they were going to go to King's Landing or whatever. And she's talking about queens and how she leaves her if she leaves her enemies like alone, that they'll basically be more powerful and stuff like that. So to me,
Yeah.
Sansa in that moment was proving her loyalty to the Vale and to the North, right? And it goes back to, I'm sorry, I love Sansa. I think she's gonna be queen. So, but
I do too.
I think it's the first episode where when they're having the feast and stuff like that. What Cersei says to Catelyn Stark at the table was very interesting. She's like, this country is very beautiful, right? She calls it a country. She doesn't call it like a territory or anything. She calls it a country, right? So I don't know. I don't think the North or the Vale is loyal, or the Riverlands for that fact, because they've been basically through the ringer the past, like, I don't know how many seasons. So, and also because she's a Tully,
Yeah.
right? So it makes sense.
She's a Tully.
Yeah, I don't see them being.
Yep. I mean, it really is for Sansa, because Sansa is like, she's got the connections with the Vale, she's got the connections with Edmure, and God knows what's happened to Edmure, but still she's got Riverrun. And she's also, I guess the Blackfish has died off camera like every other wonderful character we had. But yeah, she's got more people following her really than Jon. But maybe this is the part in the South where the Hour of the Wolf begins, because it's not the Hour of the Wolf and the Dragon begins, and it's a new dragon, not a last dragon. It's a new dragon. Maybe that's the deal. I don't know. It's changing. It's a changing of an epoch. I mean, it's been a 300-year dynasty.
See,
so it feels like it's a change of an epoch, and every time that happens, something horrifying happens like this, but you get past it, and then
Yeah, so okay, I'm gonna bring it back to Cynthia's thought and your thought together. See, you guys saw Nymeria as in Dorne. I saw Nymeria, like I was looking at the dire wolves, this entire thing, and it's almost like Arya, she realized her pack, despite leaving the Hound, right? So I just tying it in there, yeah. But yeah, I can see the whole circle.
I got a question of what happens if Dany does die and Drogon.
yeah, that's actually true.
What if both Dany and Drogon die? How do you think the Dothraki and the Unsullied are going to react in this world? You know, their leader will be gone.
I think they're gonna act like the Missandei and Grey Worm, and they're gonna just fuck off. That's what they're gonna go.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
they're gonna go to Noth,
They're gonna-
Dave Stolthrak, and whatever. They don't give a shit anymore. Right? They don't even give a
I
shit that he's ruling a kingdom. They're not even gonna stay for that.
You don't think that they're not going to seek vengeance before they go,
No.
though? I mean, look what they did for Missandei. They destroyed a whole city for her. Grey Worm himself was the one that threw the first. Them guys
Well,
had
Grey
thrown
Worm
down their
did.
swords, you know. And Grey Worm was as much in on what Dany was going to do. He was in on it from the get-go, I believe. He knew what was going to happen. And like she said, wait for my signal, you'll know. And he did. And he threw that spear, and that's when all hell broke loose. Excuse my French, but that was... John even saw they had put their weapons down.
Mhm.
And Dany went on. And I think she was planning on doing it that way the whole time.
I
I'm
agree
sorry,
with
that's
you.
just the way I feel.
I agree with you that
Hold
she
on.
was going to do that
Let me
after she.
let me
Go ahead, Steph.
let me just jump in there for a second. Okay, we're going pretty slow. Okay, so let's do Tyrion, Dany, because we're already verging into that territory. Like especially with this conversation, Tyrion, Dany, the beginning of King's Landing when they ferry themselves in front of the King's Landing area, Arya, Hound, and then Tyrion and Jaime. Okay, go Ash. Sorry.
All I was going to say is that I feel like the Dothraki and especially the Unsullied, like, I don't know if the Unsullied, besides Grey Worm, would have done that. What Grey Worm did. I don't know if they were so emotionally invested as Grey Worm was, which seems odd for an Unsullied in the first place, because they have departed so much from who the Unsullied really are. They'd even take that drink, they don't feel when they fight. So, I know Grey Worm loved Missandei and all that, and she said Dracarys. So I kind of feel like the signal was just Dany flying the dragon over the town, and Grey Worm knew that was the signal. That's always the signal, really, with her. So also it was, that was the moment where all hell broke loose, was when Grey Worm just decided, well, I'm going to just stab the guy who just put down his sword. And it was the same thing with the bells. It was like, who cares about this whole city? We're just going to trample it to dust. So maybe, if they see, and the Dothraki follow strength, if they see doing something very different than what he's been doing, they would follow him. I just don't know by this point what strength is in Jon anymore. I mean, he's got to get some, that's for sure. I just don't know. I feel like it's that whole thing
That's what
of that
she
wasn't
said.
you, with Nymeria, with Arya. Yeah. that wasn't you. So it's like, I wonder if they're just going, if, she's thinking, well, you're not even who I thought you were. And the Unsullied are going, you're not really who I thought you were. And so are the Dothraki. But then we see the trailer with everybody, yelling for her. So I really don't know what to say about what's going to happen next and how Jon's going to get out of this. But I do think that maybe there'll have to be something where the remaining lords stand up and say, we will not follow you. But it's just like I said before about Robert and his speech to Cersei about how if the Dothraki were to come to Westeros, what would happen? We would be stuck in our stone castles, and they would rape and pillage all around us. There would be nothing left as we sat here like cowards. So that's basically what just happened. That's why you don't bring the Dothraki to Westeros.
Yeah, I'll jump in after you, Ash. Right? Like,
it seems like it's going back in.
It doesn't.
Go ahead.
Let's be honest. Dany has destroyed 3 major cultures right now. She's destroyed Slaver's Bay. She's destroyed the Dothraki, and now she's utterly destroyed Westeros, which was her heritage, right? Like, you destroyed it. Let's be honest. That was 300 years of work put into that, and you just destroyed it. See, this is how you know Dany's ignorant, right? You wouldn't have destroyed that if you actually knew the worth of that. See, and this is why the book, Jorah giving the books to Dany in one of the first episodes was so important, because she didn't know jack shit about her home, right? And she should have known more. The Unsullied and the Dothraki, they're just gonna go back. They're just gonna go back. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't see the Dothraki staying.
You're right.
Why would they stay?
I don't either, actually. Well, they've already gotten their spoils of war, so what do they need now? I mean, where are they even going to live? It's like going back in time instead of going forward in time. So, it's a cyclical world, but this isn't the cyclicalness of this world. The cyclical nature of this world is kind of going back around to having a Targaryen leader, but we've still got Jon. So, it's almost like I said before, a new dragon. It's not, because what I was looking at is something having to do with Tolkien. And because we all know that, George writes this as if he's kind of responding to Tolkien. And Tolkien's whole theme was mercy and forgiveness, and his was very Christian or very Catholic, but very, a sense of mercy. And it's not so much about vanquishing evil, but always doing good when no one can see you. And Aemon said that once too. He said, we're all humans. We do our duty when there's no cost to it. Honor comes easy then, yet sooner or later in every man's life, there comes a day when it's not easy, a day when we must choose. So, that's the whole point, is that Jon he was raised by Ned. So he's still got that inside of him, that whole sense of honor. And he was the only person trying to get them to stop fighting and trying to make everybody pull back. And it just felt like, that's the only hope we have, is him. And maybe Tyrion teaming.
That's like Tyrion with his sense of honor. He basically sacrificed himself for the people. And that was what was so bad about it. The bells did ring.
Right.
And she had it all sewed up. Those people would have loved her after Cersei if she had not burned the city. And them too.
What?
Seriously, they were on her side.
Yep.
They were on her side. If she had stopped when the bells rang, everything would have been all right. She could have come in as a conqueror, having conquered the city. Instead, she just, like, it was it was horrible. It was massacre. It was, genocide or whatever you want to call it.
It was.
It was awful.
It was. It was horrific. It was sad to watch. It was just like, oh my God. But
with Tyrion, though, you got to go back to, like Steffi was saying, to Jaime and Tyrion's conversation when Dany said that he was caught. Well, Tyrion gave up everything, and they had a long conversation about how he would not have made it to adulthood without Jaime. And I thought that was very, very insightful, because he probably wouldn't. Even his father took him out there and almost drowned him. The Iron Islands do drown in those,
dwarfs.
The dwarfs, and but yeah, and Jaime, him and her dying together in the arms of the woman he loves. Yeah, I get that. But, I just, I don't know.